Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to a brand new episode of tier lists and top drives. The first video I made, which was a tier list on all of my epics in my garage, went really well, and I really appreciated the support. So this time I decided to take a new take on things, and instead of actually getting cars just from my garage, because that one was just kind of me showing my opinions to you guys on just my personal cars, I decided how about I did something that was a bit more useful for everybody's knowledge. So my first thought was, what if I made a video where I did a tier list on every car per manufacturer? And the first car that came to my mind was indeed Chevrolet, all about 85 or 86 of them. However, when I was looking at Chevrolet, I saw a lot of common and uncommon cars that I wasn't really, aware of, and cars that I just didn't really knew existed until I looked at them. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna need a bit more time before I make tier lists for every single manufacturer because I need to know the lower ranked cars better. So what I decided to do was actually make a tier list for every single American Dream car, ultra rare and above, because if there was any kind of cars I knew better or I knew the best, it would be these. It would be American Dream. And you can honestly just take my word for it because I know all these cars really well. I have all of the American Dream Ultra Rares besides the Nitro because for some reason I have never unpacked the Nitro before amidst like 20 plus Dodge carbon fibers. And I have every other American Dream Ultra Rare maxed out. Besides like two others which I own but I don't have maxed out because I don't like them per se. So with that said, here are all the different ranks that I have. We start off with KIA, Killed in Action. These are the American Dream cars that are just absolutely worthless. If you get it, it's just instant fuse. They have literally no use whatsoever. Absolutely 0%. Alright, now above KIA is Fusible. These are the cars that, yes, if you get it, you can fuse. It's basically, fusible cars are 20% useful, 80% useless. It means that they have a very unique niche to them that you may utilize at some point, but it wouldn't be, commonly used, and it's not something you should keep, or I would recommend you to keep, especially if you don't have a lot of garage slots. Moving on to the tier above Fusible is Useful. These are the cars that you want to consider having around because they are actually, useful. Above Useful is Respected. These are the cars that kind of go beyond the Call of Duty of what they're asked for. Maybe they have a particular niche that they're actually very strong in. And finally is American Hero. These aren't cars that I'm not going to give a lot of cars this spot, but the American Hero basically goes to the American Dream cars that not only are amazing cars in American Dream in itself, but just an amazing car in the whole game. As a whole. So how I'm judging these cars is, first of all, I'm going to compare them to just other American Dream cars, then I'm going to compare them to all of the American cars in the game, and then finally I'm going to compare them to all of the cars in the game, and then I'll kind of find an average between where they stand within all three categories, and then that will come out to a final decision. Anyway, with that said, let's get into it. And before I get into it, actually, I just want to say, consider subscribing. I really appreciate all the support I've had, and I'm really close to 2,300. So if we could get there before the end of the year, I would really appreciate that. Anyway, let's start off with the 35th anniversary Trans Am. This car straight off the bat is Fusible. I have this maxed out 969, 4.40 to 60, 87 handling, low ground clearance. It's not great. Decent MRA. Most Pontiacs have okay MRA, like they're not bad. Besides like the Trans Am RQ3. This Firebird is just meh. If you want to put into comparison the Mustang, I think it's Ford Mustang GT RQ19, goes 4.20 to 60, 87 handling, and that thing has medium ground clearance as well. However, the Pontiac here has low ground clearance. It's not the best, but it does have a niche where it's like kind of in that 90s, 80s range, and it's a ultra rare Pontiac. Honestly, Pontiac Ultra Rares are just a niche in itself because they are some of the best Pontiacs in the game. Moving on is the Pontiac Solstice, and once again, it's Fusible. Its niche is the same as the Trans Am. It's because it's Ultra Rare and a Pontiac, so it has that niche. I'm gonna say niche a lot, and I just want to say there are two kinds of niches. There are common niches and rare niches, like uncommon niches. The uncommon niches are the bad ones because those are the things that you never see or use, but the common ones are actually pretty good. So yeah, the Solstice is alright. You max this thing out, hits about 92 handling. Why it's fusible is because it's just not as good as the Lotus Elise 135. It's not as good as the Mazda RX-7, and when you put it just within American Dream, it's not as good as, I don't know, Dodge Viper SRT10 per se. I know it's RQ19, but it's just not a car that you see used often, but it's also not absolutely useless. Now, moving on is the Dodge SRT4 Neon. This car is really useful. Why? It's because it hits 4.40 to 60 at 19 RQ for a front-wheel drive car. Not a lot of front-wheel drive cars can hit 4.40 to 60, and that is what really makes it stand out. Because when you think of front-wheel drive cars, especially like hot hatches or hatchbacks, you think of, you know, Renaults, French cars, or maybe even Japanese cars, and a lot of them are really great in handling, but their 0 to 60 isn't their strong suit. What this Neon has is, well, the 0 to 60 is its strong suit, but then the handling really isn't. So this is a really good car to use for clubs, especially since front wheel drive is the most common requirement. This is a really good car to use just in case, you know, you get some like drags in your track set. This will be a really good car because it'll beat all like the French hatchbacks and the Japanese and all that. It won't win anything twisty, but it will win stuff fast. Moving on is the Challenger GT. This car is going to be useful as well. Why? It's because in terms of just American cars and American Dream in itself, it's actually very strong because it has medium ground clearance and four-wheel drive. Not a lot of American Dream cars have that combination, and also performance tires. So it is good in the rain. It's not the best in the rain because it doesn't have standard, but you know, if you're going in a performance tire event, it's useful. And along with that four-wheel drive medium ground clearance capability, it has better handling than the Pontiac Solstice, which is really impressive actually. 93 handling maxed out. It has medium ground clearance and better handling than the Solstice, which is hard to believe, but it seems to be true. I don't know what the actual like lateral handling G thing is for the cars. I only know the Charger wide bodies, which is like 0.98 Gs. But the Challenger GT is great. What really brings it down is the 0 to 60. The 0 to 60 is literally non-existent, but it's a good city streets car, especially if you want to try and save RQ. Moving on is the Chrysler Crossfire. This car is just absolutely useless. Just don't even think about it. It's one of two American Dream cars I absolutely hate. That Crossfire, the only thing it's good for is Chrysler events, and Chrysler events never show up. So moving on is the Cobalt. The Cobalt is fusible. You know, it's not the best. I'm pretty sure it has medium ground clearance, decent handling. But what the Cobalt doesn't have that the Neon has is that the Neon serves the niche of it being a really fast hatchback. The Cobalt is kind of like trying to be like everybody else. Everybody else being like the French and the Japanese hatchbacks, you know, kind of bad 0 to 60, but really good handling. Because when you put it together, I mean, even the handling isn't that much of a difference. It's 79 to the Neon 78. So I'm now tempted to put the Cobalt in just absolute KIA. But yeah, it's not a car that you're gonna use often. But you know, Chevrolet events do come out from time to time, and then that's where you can probably use the Cobalt. Anyway, moving on is the Z28. This thing is absolutely useless. Like, honestly, the Z28 and the Camaro Z28 and the Crossfire, they kind of go hand in hand with each other because you just never see them. You never see them maxed out. You never see anybody use them. You know, this Chevrolet is probably one of the worst Chevrolets in the game as well. Not a huge fan of that. Definitely don't even think about maxing it out because those cars, these two cars here, they're worse than the Solstice, right? They're worse than the Solstice because you're only gonna use them for twisty stuff. When it comes to drags, you have like the likes of the Aerovet and the ZR2 and everything like that. The Corvette C3 ZR2, not the Colorado. So honestly, those two cars are worse than the Solstice, and the Solstice is already worse than the RX-7 and the Lotus Elise. So this is like third tier. Like, just don't even think about it. Anyway, moving on is the Pontiac Trans Am. I'm gonna put this in fusible as well. This is like the 50th anniversary or whatever it's called. Why? It's because it has medium ground clearance. It's honestly really not that great of a car. You know what? No, I'm gonna bump it down to fuse. No, I'm gonna bring it back up. No, I'm gonna bring it down. I was gonna say because, you know, it serves that niche of an ultra rare Pontiac, and it also has medium ground clearance. But then it hit me that there's another Pontiac that has medium ground clearance that's just so much better. This Pontiac is so bad. Recently, I'm not sure if you guys remember, there was like the Space Race event. Right? The Space Race event in Top Drives, and it was like 90s US cars that you had to use, and I was basically using this Trans Am for city streets, and it loses to the Dodge IROC, which is an RQ-17 super rare on city streets, which is like the only thing you would use that car for, because it has just worse stats compared to the not the RQ, but the 35th anniversary. And the only reason why it's RQ20 is because it has medium ground clearance. But then it's also losing to like a super rare. Yeah, no, that's a fuse for sure. It's just too much of a niche. Anyway, moving on is a Dodge Nitro. I'm gonna put this in fusible. Honestly, I don't know this car super well. It's like the only American Dream I've never unpacked, which is like really ironic because I've opened 20 Dodge carbon fibers, over 20. But it does have four-wheel drive all-surface tires and combined with RQ20, so it doesn't seem like it's horrendous, but it doesn't really look. I don't know. I don't have this maxed out. If anyone does, let me know down in the comments below if you like the Nitro or not, because I feel like it could be useful, but there are just a lot of other cars that does the job better in RQ20. I'm thinking just like Mercedes GLC. That thing hits about 5.90 to 60 and about 83 handling. It's actually pretty decent. Anyway, moving on to the Magnum. Magnum is fusible. I have the Magnum. It used to be RQ21 at some point. I don't know why. The MRA is trash. I have this maxed out. I think it hits about 91 handling and about 4.20 to 60. And has medium ground clearance as well, but it's not as good as the Charger Brothers. So because of that, I'm going to put it as fusible and put the Charger Brothers as useful. Now, these Chargers, they don't have good MRA, especially the SRT8 has an MRA of like 50. It's horrendous. However, the SRT8 has still an amazing 0 to 60. I think it hits 3.9 maxed out and about 89 handling. And honestly, the Charger Daytona and the SRT8 are kind of like my go-to cars for city live-in events and clubs, because they're actually great city street cars. And actually, that Charger Daytona, it's really quite decent. It hits about 93 handling, has medium ground clearance, and is about a second faster than the Challenger GT, and it has medium ground clearance as well. So when it comes to dry city streets and you kind of want to save RQ, those are the good ones to use, those two Chargers. Anyway, moving on to the Caliber. The Caliber is definitely KIA. It's just, I never see anybody use it. I have it. I don't even have it maxed out. Yeah, I've never seen anybody use this. It does have front wheel drive, but even in the front wheel drive events, like, I don't see anything. This is kind of like the Caliber is kind of like, I don't know, because it's slower than the Neon, right? But it's also like it has the handling. So it's kind of just, it brings me back to square one, where the French cars are just better, and it pains me to say that, trust me. Anyway, next one is Aerovet. Aerovet is definitely respected. This car, you have to have at 996. It hits 3.70 to 60. It has a very respectable MRA of about 83, and it also is a pretty old car. I think it's like a 60s, 70s car, something like that. Really, really useful. It's a great competitor out there, better than obviously the ZR2, the El Camino. I'm trying to think of other drag cars that are, you know, outside of the American range. I've never actually compared them to the Miura, so that'll be really interesting. But at least before Italian Renaissance, the Aerovet was one of the best drag kind of mid-tier kind of car that you can get. Moving on is the Ram Rebel. Ram Rebel is definitely respected as well. Basically any car that is four-wheel drive off-road tires is respected, because those cars are like just amazing. Moving on is the Pontiac GTO. Now this Pontiac GTO is what I would compare with to this other Trans Am. The GTO is better because, once again, it's an ultra rare. It's one of the best Pontiacs in the game. It's like the third best Pontiac in the game, and the second best achievable Pontiac in the game. Medium ground clearance, 89 handling, and it actually has pretty strong 0 to 60. It's a great city streets car, and it actually beats the two Chargers as well. So if you do get the GTO, I would really recommend the GTO. Moving on is the Viper SRT10. I'm going to put that in useful. I am biased towards the Viper, which, you know, I want to put it in respected, but, you know, if I'm not biased, I'll put it in useful. The Viper is actually really good, right? MRA is decent. 4.40 to 60. You max this thing out, it hits up like 3.7, something like that. 80 handling, max it out 969 or 699. It hits 89 handling as well. It's a very solid car. You know, when I think of direct competitors, I think of the non-American Dream Corvette C5, and it beats the Corvette C5 in almost anything. SRT10 is a solid car. Moving on is the Stealth, Dodge Stealth. I really like this Dodge Stealth. I'm gonna put it in respected. If you don't have it, max it out. It does have low ground clearance. What I would say are direct competitors to this car would be the R32 or the R33. But you know, I don't know how it hangs on with those two cars, but in terms of American dream cars and American cars as a whole, the stealth is really solid. 4.10 to 60, 89 handling, and 4-wheel drive. It is definitely a keeper. Moving on is the Chrysler Aspen Hybrid. This one is either fusible or KIA. That's up to you guys to decide. Honestly, I would put it in fusible because, once again, all surface tires, 4-wheel drive, but then again, it is one of the weaker 4-wheel drive all surface tires in the game. This car is also really slow. 7.10 to 60 makes it slower than the Nitro, but it does have decent handling. But then it also is a very, very heavy car. I don't see it used very often, but I would say it's not useless. You could have it. I have one maxed out, but you know, because of that, because I don't know much about it, or at least I do know a bit about it, because I don't see anybody use it, I will put it in fusible. Anyway, the next one is the Chrysler. I'm gonna make a new row, add row below, and then we'll do, what should we name it? Not tested, because I don't know much about the next car coming up, but I decided to add prize cars in this list as well. So not tested, add, there's no like confirm button, so it always confuses me. And let's change the color to like purple. This is not tested, so that's fine. I'm gonna speed up the video now because it's starting to get kind of long and we're only still in ultras. Corvette Grand Sport is definitely respected. 94 handling, 4.50 to 60, very, very good. The Cobalt is one of my favorite American dream cars. It does hold a very good niche to it. It's a better version of the other Cobalt. This is the Cobalt SS Turbo. Great car. It's definitely useful, but it's not the best. It hasn't really withstood the test of time that I've given it. It's not as good as the Megans, and it hits about 4.60 to 60, but then the Honda Civic Type R hits 4.5. And when you think about it this way, the Neon is actually faster than the Cobalt, so it shows how good the Neon actually is. Followed by that is a Pontiac Torrent. Torrent is decent. It's like the new the new Cadillac XT5. It hits 84 handling, and that's very, very impressive, and because of that, I'm gonna give it respected. Moving on is the Sierra. The Sierra All-Terrain is honestly one of my favorite cars in American Dream. However, it's overshadowed by its older brother, which is the Colorado ZR2, and because of that, it doesn't really get used because the Colorado ZR2 is just better. And so everybody would just use it. So the Sierra is useful, but it's not something you would definitely keep. Moving on to Tahoe. Oh my god, Tahoe is American hero. No, I'm joking. It's American hero to me because it won me the Demon. But in a reality standpoint, it's a solid car, but it's not the best. So I'm going to put useful. It got an upgrade from RQ21 to 22, which honestly, I don't know why. It's not an RQ22 worthy car, but definitely is RQ21. It's definitely better than the Aspen because I've tested it out, and it's solid. You know, it's better than a lot of the SUVs in the game, but it's not top tier or top tier ultra rare. Because of that, it's going to be useful. Moving on is the Colorado ZR2. This is an American hero. Honestly, one of the best ultra rares in the game, hands down. It was this and the Mirai, but the Mirai obviously got bumped up to Epic, so you know, if the Mirai was still ultra, so it'll be an American hero as well. That ZR2, I guarantee you, next update, it's going to be epic. It's going to be RQ23. There's just no way. It's either it goes up to 23 or the Raptor goes down to 23. Because it's just so close to the Raptor. Like, and if the Raptor is 24, it kind of justifies the ZR2 to be 23. But hopefully the Raptor goes down to 23 and the ZR2 stays 22. But it's hard. It's hard to see that. It's really hard to see that. That ZR2 is such a killer car. Needs no introduction. Moving on to Camaro SS. You max this thing out. 3.90 to 60. 93 handling. It's a very solid car. Decent MRA. Definitely 100 times better than its convertible brother. Being one of the worst American cars in the game. The Camaro SS is definitely respected. Moving on is the Capo. I don't know much about the Capo, so that's not tested. And then we have the Chrysler SRT something. This car, you know, once again, RQ23 cars is something I don't like. It has good 0 to 60, 4.5, truly. But I don't know what the MRA is on this thing. I never see it maxed out. Chrysler events, once again, they never show up. It's weird because Pontiac is actually a lot more frequent than Chrysler. I don't know why. I feel like Hutch based the events of how popular the brands actually are. That's why you see some events more than others. But yeah, it's not very useful. Moving on is the Corvette, the C4. This one's gonna be fusible. Honestly, could be KIA as well, but I did see some people use this maxed out in the Space Race event, and it's actually kind of decent, you know, 3.8, 3.9, sometimes 0 to 60 if you 996 it, because the one I saw was 996. But it also has decent handling. If you do it like 969, it's probably going to hit like 95, 96. So it's not the worst. But also, like, it has a niche to it as well, being like a 90s car. But it's also like not useful. I mean, you're not going to max it out anytime soon. Honestly, it could be fused anyway. Next one is the next Copa. You know, not tested, so I wouldn't know. And then followed by that are the two RQ23 Camaros, which are both going to be just fused. Those two Camaros are just like, it's just nothing special about them, honestly. I've actually fused them myself. So I have to say though, this Camaro right here, the Camaro SS, does have decent looking handling, 85. But then again, doesn't really justify it. If I had to go with like a super high handling low RQ car, I would go for like the BMW M3. I think that hits 87 stock. Alright, moving on, the RQ23 Cadillacs. These are also useless, and I'm gonna put them there. You know what Cadillac brings to the table is medium ground clearance. But the statistics on these cars are just really underwhelming. Now, moving on are the two GMC four-wheel drive standard tires. First one is the Typhoon. Typhoon's really good, but it's not as good as the Cyclone, and the Cyclone is respected. And really, I'm putting Cyclone under respected because it has, you know, good handling, four-wheel drive standard tires, medium ground clearance, cancel out all the niches. But then that Cyclone is due for an upgrade, because that 0 to 60, you guys know it, I've said it so many times, that 0 to 60 is wrong. It should be a lot faster. Moving on is the Scat Pack, the Charger. I love the Charger, guys. Don't get me wrong, I love the Charger, but no. I'm never gonna max mine out. I have it in my garage for sentimental reasons, and sentimental reasons alone, it's just not useful. Yeah, just the Hellcats are just so much better that it just brings it into irrelevance, really. Moving on is the Mirai. The Mirai is definitely useful. Honestly, is it respected? Yeah, it could be respected because it's very strong. It has really good handling. It has four-wheel drive. It's light, low 0 to 60, no top speed. Great car for the twisties. Needs no introduction. I'll put it in respected. Moving on is the Camaro ZL1 convertible. It's fusible. I have one maxed out, but wrong category. It's fusible. I have one maxed out, but that was literally because I wanted to compete in the Demon Finals. If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have touched it with a 10-foot pole. Moving on is the El Mirage. Oh my goodness, the El Mirage, I have to say, used to be respected when it used to be an Ultra, but then it got nerfed and it became an Epic, and now nobody can max it out anymore. But I have to say, this car has strong MRA, 89 MRA, has good handling and medium ground clearance. It's the car you want to use. The El Mirage was the car that made both the CTSs that I put in KIA irrelevant, if anything. Followed by that is the C5. No, the C6. C6 is fusible. I don't see a lot of people use it. It has good handling, but once again, you know, it's not as good as the Grand Sport. It's not as good as the Lingenfelter, and it's definitely not as good when you look into all cars. It's definitely not as good as the M3 CS or the LP550. So that car is fusible. Moving on is the ZL1. This one is useful because it's a good competitor to the Z28 from the campaign, and the Z28 from the campaign is also useful. They're both decent muscle cars, if anything. They're actually very strong. The Z28 actually has pretty decent MRA, and it used to be RQ26 if you remembered, but because it got changed from medium ground clearance to low, it got down to 25. But I still use this car really often, not gonna lie. Now, moving on to the Hellcats. The Hellcats, the Charger Hellcat is gonna be American Hero. It's one of the best drag cars in the game. It's the best American drag car in the game besides the Demon. And it's definitely very solid. It has an MRA of like 98 or something like that, 95. I think 98 actually, so it is very, very strong. Moving on is the wide body. The wide body to me is an American Hero, but in Top Drives related terms is definitely just respected, just because it's just not as strong as the Charger in the drags anymore, but it has decent MRA. And when it comes to like the twisty stuff, or not really the twisty stuff, like things that has a little bit of turn, then the wide body might be one of the best American cars in the game, because like when you think of fast circuit, there's some turns to it. It has, you know, 4 more handling points than the Charger Hellcat, and you know, when you think of hairpin, it will be better than the Charger Hellcat as well. Might be better than like a 1-star Viper, not the ACR, just the SRT Viper. So the wide body definitely is very useful. However, it's only respected if you don't 996 it. If you 996 it, it's actually just irrelevant now, because the Charger is the 996 2.6 Hellcat. The wide body, honestly, 699. If I got my wide body, I would probably 699 it. Moving on is the green Hellcat, the thin boy. This car is useful because, you know, it's not the best drag car in the game, and the wide body is just better. And yeah, it kind of makes me sad because I have 6 of it. It's useful. It's a good car. It's great at the drag still, but it's just not what it used to be. It's not the best anymore, and because of that, it's just useful. Grand Sport is respected. 98 handling, 3.10 to 60. It's your go-to G-force, if anything. Then we go on with the Wagon from Hell. It's respected as well. Medium ground clearance and has an MRA of like 105. That's insane. That is actually insane. That CTS Wagon is amazing. Followed by that are the next 2 Cadillacs. The next one's a prize car, after the one that I'm going to do now. This one is useful. You know, it has medium ground clearance. It has 88 handling. Honestly, I don't know what the MRA on this Cadillac is. I'm not sure if it's better. We can look that up right now. Why not, you know? Top Drives Club. Let's go. Default. I'm gonna keep this video under 30 minutes no matter what. We're gonna go to S, and we're going to go to Cadillac, because I actually really want to know this. I don't have those cars. So yeah, 102. This one is 85. Alright, so 85 doesn't justify amazingness. This one's 91 though. Okay, cool. So let's get back into it. Yeah, I'm gonna stick to my gut then. That Cadillac ATS is gonna be useful because 85 just doesn't really cut it. But moving on is the prize car. This one has good handling as well, 87, and it has a lot better MRA because it's 91. And because of that, I'm gonna put it in respected. Followed by that is the GTS R. This one's an American hero. It's a slick god. Honestly, I do regret not competing for that. But then again, if I competed for that, I would have dropped upwards of $200 because I did not have just the good enough convertible epics, namely the F-Type and the SLS, which is what you need, the SLS Roadster. Followed by that is the SRT Viper or Bollywood. This one's useful. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best because it has worse MRA than the ACR. It has worse handling than the ACR, but it does have a good 0 to 60, which means you probably only want to use it for test bowl. But then test bowls aren't super, you know, common. You know, the most common kind of tracks are the twisty ones, and 89 is like, it's alright, but, you know, it's not as amazing as the GTSR or even the ACR, because the ACR has 3 more handling points, and I'm going to put the ACR as American hero. A little bit of bias going into this, but also I've heard from people that aren't me, alright, so that's like not bias, other sources from Discord saying that the Viper ACR is actually one of the best RQ28 legendaries in the game that has performance tires, and I have to agree. I have this thing maxed out, my only max legendary, 2.90 to 60, 102 handling at 699. The only weakness that the Viper ACR has is the low top speed, which is like, it makes it the opposite of the SRT Viper, but then it also has like stronger MRA, so the ACR definitely is a strong car. Now let's wrap it up. We have the Demon. The Demon is respected. Like I said, it's one of the best drag cars in the game. It's the best drag American car in the game, besides like the SGC and like the ME412. So it's a definitely very useful car, but definitely isn't an American hero. As much as I love the Demon, it just needs, what the Demon needs is that MRA buff. It just needs the MRA buff, and then it will be honestly just scary. Moving on is the ZL11LE. The ZL11LE is American hero for sure. This thing is like, what, it hits about 100 handling, over 100 handling maybe? 100, no, I think it'll be 100 handling. 0 to 60 of like 2.9. It's just insane. It's an insane car, and I was so close to winning that, and I'm just so gutted that I'm still gutted. I still regret it. I'm still angry till this day that I don't have it. Moving on is the CN. CN has good MRA. We can even check again. 110. Wow. Yeah, but that is like kind of its niche, right? It's a one-trick pony in terms of MRA. It has worse handling than the ATS, which is right here. It has worse handling than the Vipers, or the Vipers. All 3 of them has worse handling than it doesn't have strong handling, but it has great MRA. But then the 0 to 60 is also not really strong. It's 3.6. at 28 RQ when the Demon is 2.3 and also at 28 RQ. It just shows like how much MRA does to balance things out. Moving on to Chrysler ME412. Now the Chrysler ME412 is definitely very strong as well. You know, I'm thinking CN, you know what, the CN's gonna be useful. Honestly, I'm sorry, the CN is useful. It just doesn't justify that respected spot at the 110 MRA. But the ME412 is definitely good. 2.9, 88, you know, it's just a stronger car all in all. Moving on is the Corvette ZR1. This is a car that has been out for a while, but I never really see it. 2.9 and 90, you know, it begs me to put it in respected, because 2.9 and 90 to 2.9 88, also both RQ29, probably has decent MRA as well, but I'll definitely put it in respected. I don't see it often though. Moving on to Cadillac 16. Cadillac 16, ooh, I want to put it as American Hero, but the only thing that drags it down is it doesn't have four-wheel drive, so because of that, it's going to be respected. The only thing that drags it down is four-wheel drive, so you can't use it for any twisty rain stuff. But any rain stuff that's in the fast, like fast circuit, drags, test bowl, this car is second to none. It's the best in the whole game. Moving on to the SGC. SGC is American Hero, hands down. SGC is just after PL10, after Italian Renaissance. This thing was just, it's impossible. Nothing can beat it. Okay, not nothing, but it's god tier. It's a god tier RQ30. 2.7 and 97. Okay, 97 handling stock. That's just insane. That's just absolutely insane. It has better handling than the slick tire motorsport Viper GTSR. But with that said, this is my American Dream tier list. If you want to make it your own, there's going to be a link in the description as well. And let me know if you agreed with this or you didn't. Definitely, I agree with it because it's my opinion. And I know this car's like the back of my hand. But if you don't, you know, just let me know in the comments below. Which car do you think maybe should be moved around? Should there be other cars in KIA or other cars that are, you know, useful, or other cars that should be bumped down or bumped up? But with that said, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.